Ayahuasca is first and foremost a specific plant. Pretty much universally in the Amazon, ayahuasca has been regarded as the mother of all plants. And it has the qualities of communicating with and potentiating the energy and particularly the healing qualities of other plants. It creates an opening for other medicines to be more effective. The vine serves as a inhibitor of a digestive enzyme, allowing the DMT in the companion plant to be taken up through the stomach through oral administration. Companion plant is an agent of consciousness, and it is an agent that facilitates spiritual healing. Ayahuasca happens also to be the name of the medicine. As I like to say, there's more to ayahuasca than what's in the cup. And you generally couldn't ingest all of what there is to the medicine in a cup. And a lot of it's interactive, a lot of it is synergistic, a lot of it has to do with being at a point in your life where you're ready to make a change. And coming to ayahuasca is based on a personal calling to it. That's the way it's always been through the course of human history in relation to these plants. There's always been a mystical calling associated with it.
Ayahuasca. It's in a class of medicine experiences that are conscious, visionary, and open up our heightened senses of awareness. All of these things together help us get more clear about our passion, our purpose, our mission, and as a result to be able to release the craziness in our own human drama and experience more peace throughout our lives.
The idea of a plant having a consciousness that you can communicate with to the Western intellectual mind is just, they can't even touch that. So a big part of the work that I'm dedicated to doing on a consciousness level is to open people to greater possibilities than their mind can presently conceive of. Once opened, it just becomes an exponentially expanding process that I think there's no end to. The sacred plants have a way of going directly to the cause. It's not that the symptoms are ignored, but the primary treatment is not focused on symptoms. It's focused on the actual cause of the condition.
The only thing we think is like, oh, this is who I am. There's no conscious thought of like, all right, let's look back and see how the death of my brother or my drug abuse or parents' divorce at an early age, how those things imprinted a certain emotional response and also how they continue to play out in life.
I was going through a rough time in my life. As a journalist, I'd witnessed way too much violence, death, corruption, and I just lost all hope. I thought that I was stronger than I was. I think many of us, I put on this mask that I can handle this, and I was seeing all of this negativity over and over and over, and eventually it got to me. I wasn't living. I just was being sucked down into this negative vortex of PTSD.
So it has this mood elevating effect. It's also a natural antidepressant. That's why it's one of the most effective treatments for depression. And depression is largely one of the major epidemics worldwide, right? So there's a lot of desire for people to get out of their psychic stuckness.
And I was sitting on the plane and looking over the Amazon in all of its beauty, seeing ribbons of rivers cutting through the greenery. And it was like the forest was telling me, I can cure you. Have faith.
One of the first things I was taught about ayahuasca by my first maestra was stated in very simple terms. She said, little brother, ayahuasca is going to take out everything bad in you and leave all the good.
I keep getting asked, you're going down to do medicine work again? To me, this is just like working out the body. If someone goes to yoga for a week and then they go the next week, it's not like, dude, 2 weeks of yoga in a row? Like, are you crazy? This, to me, is the same thing, but for your mind. And for me, I'm in the middle of breaking down a lot of different barriers and walls and things inside myself. And, through further sessions and then the integration, I have immense confidence that I'll be able to build all that back up even stronger. But there's a point where you're overtraining. So, there is a place and a time for stopping, pumping the brakes, but you just got to tune in and make sure that you're allowing yourself enough time to integrate. Going into tonight's ceremony, I can sense a potency brewing here that I wasn't really anticipating when I came, but I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to whatever comes, and whatever that'll be. I've learned enough throughout this process to just have faith.
I don't think I'm a bad person. I just think something's broken inside of me and I just want to fix that. Maybe I don't love myself as much as I should. I think back to when I was young, maybe like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and I recall being very happy. As time went on, I didn't feel like I knew where I wanted to go in life, and I didn't really know how to solve that problem. And I just realized I would put myself in harm's way a lot because I was so unhappy with my choices in life. I'm in a place now where I don't know how to get out of this. I still realize that I didn't have that youthful happiness. And after hearing about ayahuasca, I was like, maybe this will actually set those pathways in my head where they're supposed to be.
It's nice to have a support system of, strangers virtually, but also, I got my brother here too, so. And I really wanted to go home just because it was so difficult, but now I know I have to see it through, and just the fact that I say that and I'm going to do it is like a new confidence.
Pretty much the sole legitimate response to coming to ayahuasca is based on a personal calling to it. But as we've seen, this is not easy. This is hard. And we do this not because it's easy, but because it's hard. That's what makes it what it is. And it actually contributes to the effectiveness of it as a healing process. So, this is not for everybody. But for those who are right for it, it's probably the best option there is.
To work with these medicines, you get a lot broader perspective, and you have a quicker opportunity to jump to some of these higher levels of consciousness and make that transition a little easier. Even if it's just a short glimpse, you have an idea in the back of your head when you come back, like, okay, it's possible.
And I actually felt the ayahuasca going through my veins. and like fizzing through my veins and going all the way up into my head, and I could feel it just fizzing and working around. And at the same time, it was telling me, just lay back. I'm taking care of you. You know, something's wrong with your brain chemistry. I need to fix this. And I had these visions of ayahuasca literally going through every cell in my brain and in my body and just taking the ones that were out of shape and just whoop, making them correct again. And that's why ayahuasca is so incredible, because it knows what's bugging you. And it gets in there and it unlocks memories that you may not even remember you remember, and allows you to process them and in a matter of hours. That's why some people call it 10 years of therapy in one night.
It's super important to do this work with people who are significantly skilled, who know what they're doing, who have the tools and the techniques for helping people navigate what can be a disorienting process. So the set and the setting is vital.
The energy that is created by Don Howard and Don Robert is so intense. And just hearing people purge and just the energy coming off of everybody, I almost can't handle it. You know, and already I'm dealing with all like the weird odyssey that's happening like in my body. I can't handle it, and something inside me just tells me to move. And I just get up and I totally walk in the dark. I was frustrated.
We all have toxic, negative, or contaminating energy in our bodies that we're holding in our being. This is simply a process of disengaging that and allowing it to come out. It's part of a cleansing process and often associated with healing. That may be the very cause of some subtle condition you have that needs to be alleviated.
I don't know, the act of purging and physically pulling things out that hurt, kind of, it made room for other things. And I know I didn't physically, like, pull a bunch of pain out of my body, but it really felt that way.
So the shikapa serves to clean the aura, clean the energy fields, and make one more receptive to receiving the medicine. And then the shikapa becomes an instrument of transmission. The reason for the tapping on the head has the effect of opening one's receptiveness, opening the crown chakra in particular to receive energy through that portal.
I didn't know what more I could get from them because I've had so many journeys and so much transformation. And this trip has really been about the medicine teaching me that I need to love myself. And I had a profound vision the first night where the ayahuasca showed me everything that I love. I saw dolphins and whales, something that I just love to the bottom of my heart, and people and nature. And then the ayahuasca turned to me and said, why is it that you have so much love for all those other beings, but when you look at yourself, you barely have any? And that really, really resonated with me and made me realize that so many of us, including myself, sometimes we're so concentrated on others we forget to pay the favor back and replenish our own souls.
There's something about this process, though, that brings the majority of people to a common realization. And the realization is simple. It's really not new at all. In fact, it's very, very old. But it's been largely lost in the modern day because of the an overemphasis on intellectual analysis and certain assumptions that the human mind can find all the answers.
Well, I tried to commit suicide when I was 18, my senior year in high school. And it's a thought that keeps coming back when you get into those dark places. But I knew the second that I woke up from having flatlined and being called dead, that I wouldn't do it again, ever. But that doesn't stop those thoughts. But what's been really interesting is how now I can start to use that in a positive way.
Work with these sacred plants of antiquity tends to bring one to the realization of core truths that not because someone else believes it or because we're supposed to believe it, it's simply because it is revealed to us as truth.
It was almost like the ayahuasca grabbed me out of the bed because I was really in the middle of the experience and it was so intense I could barely get up. But all of a sudden I felt this force just pull me out of bed and drag me into the bathroom. And I'm standing there in front of the mirror, looking at myself in the mirror. And then all of a sudden I split into two people. One, myself, and the other, this part of myself that needs to love myself. And the medicine was telling me, look at that woman. She's got a big heart. She's an amazing person. She's very caring. You have to show her some love. You have to, she's going to die if you don't give her love and nourishment. Everyone needs love and nourishment. And for the first time in my life, I looked at myself as if it wasn't me and just another being that really needed love. And I felt so sorry that I hadn't given myself love. And for the first time in my life, I turned to my face in the mirror and looked at myself, into my soul, and said, I love you.
Going into the next ceremony, my intention was surrender, because I feel like I didn't surrender my control enough the first time, and I was too afraid. And so I got very afraid very fast. And the world was very vibrant, very beautifully colored, but so much so that I felt like my head was going to actually explode. And so I said, I think I need to go to my room. And he said, if you need to go to your room, you can, but you're safe here. And if you need to talk to me again, I'll come and counsel you and, help you. And so then I just made the executive decision to leave the Maloka. Of course, I ended up naked. I ended up throwing up all over my floor. And I ended up sitting in the bathroom for about 2 hours trying to, come back to myself. And, I'm naked, and I'm afraid, and I don't feel my body. Then I was able to just separate my judgment of myself completely, and it went in front of me. And then I just said, I am not ashamed. I'm a good person. And suddenly it just got easier. I was relieved, and I stood up. And I just stared at myself in the mirror for a very long time, and I didn't recognize myself.
I know from my own personal growth, oftentimes I don't even know why I'm coming to ceremony, at this point for my own personal growth. Usually that clarifies after the ceremony. In the midst of it, though, there's this consistent experience of patience and waiting.
Being an engineer, I've tried to solve this problem myself for a long time. And when I first started on this path, I didn't have a really refined, streamlined reason. And I was having anxiety about it, how to put it in just a simple sentence. Here's what I am looking for. So when it was my turn to go up, I went up there and I asked Mother Ayahuasca to basically unlock the part in me that's holding me back from being the person I want to be.
What hit me again this morning, my brother keeps coming up, and as much as I feel like I'm getting to a better place, and I feel like I am getting to a better place with that, there is some deep trauma that's still there. There's some deep trauma from the time that I found my brother. I found him the next morning, and I can still see his face, sitting there extremely peaceful but dead. And that's hard. It's hard to see that. Go back to all those questions of, well, God, man, why couldn't I have been there to do something about it? Why wasn't I there? Why did that have to happen to him? It should have been me. It should should have been me multiple times prior to that. Why my little brother? And so there's still shit there. There's still shit there that has to be cleaned out.
I try to look at it, you know, I hear these people explain what they've seen, and everything seems so real and vivid of what they saw. And what I saw was foggy, but what I saw initially was only like 15 minutes after drinking, maybe 20. I saw a key floating in my mind. And it was just there for a couple minutes. And I was having an internal conversation. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. There's a key here. I'm wanting to unlock something. So this must be the key, but how do I get from this point to the actual lock? You know, what's the path for the lock? And then, for whatever reason, I kind of got out of that space in my head, and it kind of all just went back to reality.
Often people come in a state of relative turmoil, a lot of friction in their lives. And over a period of 7 or 8 days, which is usually as much time as is needed to realize a shift in that. Sometimes it's a complete fix, sometimes it's just a step in the right direction, but there generally is a predictable improvement in the way people feel about themselves, the way the ease they feel with the medicine itself.
Well, now I trust it a little bit more. You know, being able to witness the transformation of strangers. And it's like, what should I be afraid of if it's helping people, helping everyone around me? It's definitely for me. I got the call to come here, so I just need to stomach it better. I mean, I don't mind the purging so much. It's just the unlocking parts of myself and working hard to deal with the problems that usually we push aside. That's the difficult part, but I want to do that. That's why I came here, to change.
Sat with that big cup, laid back, doing a lot of self-talk to just kind of relax, breathe, just sending like nice pretty colors down to your belly and just letting it calm itself out a little bit. And that was helping. And that was great because it was starting to really come on. The Madhyasan was just starting like, and it felt like I felt like I was in a lung is what I kind of equated it to, because there was this breathing aspect and this constant pulse, slow, steady. It's like, all right, okay, good. But all that kept coming up was all of this extraneous work shit. It was endless, and that's all I kept getting was just this constant flood of work, and I kept pausing, going, okay, how do I make Mitch a better person? How do I make Mitch a better person? What can I do to help the world? You know, those kind of things, and then it would just come back with all this work stuff. I was like, okay, fine, I'll go with that. And again, I couldn't get comfortable. And the rest of the evening was about dealing with this back thing again and trying to understand why it's happening and what is it that kind of keeps clicking that thing and sending it off.
Everything's connected. All aspects of ourselves, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical, are interconnected. The key to the healing of a physical condition is actually to approach it from a causal perspective, which is often rooted in a traumatic life experience or some psychological thing that's happened or some spiritual injury that one has received, which is manifesting in a physical way or a psychological way.
Yeah, once I got up there and laid down, it was a strange experience. When they were talking about doing suction, Don Howard was telling me about this beforehand. I was like, oh, they're going to bring out some like rubber things that they stick on you and they push down, and they're going to pull this stuff out. And I laid down, and Don Robert's mouth is right on my back, and he's several times, and I could almost visually see strings getting sucked out of me, and I don't know what those were or how they weren't. They seemed to be living, but they didn't seem to have any sort of recognizable life form to them. They looked like long strings, but had a physical, tangible nature to it.
You know, I felt like I was tracking a beast that's inside me, that had been plaguing me, hunting me, you know, limiting my bliss, limiting my effectiveness in who I want to be. And I wasn't even aware of it. But it felt like the last
It's another beautiful part of this medicine. She shines light on our shadow so that we can look at it and we get better at looking at it, and we get more curious about what that is. More curious about that part of me that I've been denying or judging or guilting and shaming. I get more curious about all aspects of myself because I know as I bring them into the light, as I presence their experience, their message, their teaching, I become more able to offer it love and support. Listen. Experience. and the ego has a hard time surrendering. And so the whole act of surrendering is extraordinarily therapeutic just by itself. Releasing expectation, the acceptance of what is. Oftentimes, some of the most powerful experiences and ceremonies are something completely unpredictable that we wouldn't have scripted. That you walk out with thinking, where did that come from?
My own makeup the way I am, there's probably a lot to break down inside of me before I'm going to be open to these things. It's not in my nature to ask for help, and essentially that's what I'm doing here. I'm asking for help from something that isn't tangible. It's kind of a stretch for me. So Don Howard, when he walks around and gives you your little pep talk, he touched me on my heart, and he actually said this in previous ceremonies, but I guess I didn't take what he was saying literally. And asked me if I loved myself, and I'd never been really asked that question. I never even thought about that. I changed my intention that night to just, help me open myself up to you, to the medicine. It took me to a whole nother place. I don't want to guess what it was because I don't want to ruin the magic. I started talking to Ayahuasca, and she started working on my heart and showing me things. She was just showing me my family and the things that are important to me. She's like, well, now that we've got that open, we can move to other spots. And that's when my brain just started going, just sizzling. And I'm like, what are you doing up there? And she's like, we've got to fix what's wrong in there. And as I've mentioned before, I had a problem with depression.
Drank the cup, even though every part of my body did not want to drink the cup. I'm so over ayahuasca. Oh man, I can't believe that I had to do it again. But sure enough, you filled it up, 2/3 cup. And I knew I was in for it, but I just resolved to just take it. And I sat there and I contemplated puking immediately to escape from the situation, but I didn't. And I started to kind of lean over until I just couldn't hold myself up anymore, and I went down to the mat. And once again, it was round 2 on the beautiful hell. And I describe it as beautiful hell because every part of my body just wants to retch. And I feel feverish and exhausted and nauseous. I'm curled up. But the visions in my head are that, beautiful phantasmagoria of this menagerie of beasts and colors and lights and kaleidoscopes. I didn't give a fuck. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And I just sunk lower and lower and lower into this state where, I've surrendered to my own death before. But this was much, much deeper. And I fell to the point where I was literally nothing.
My body just went completely still. I didn't have a desire to move. I wasn't thinking about my back, and my mind was completely still. There wasn't anything going through it. And then 15, 20 minutes, the medicine started getting in and doing its thing. And I went right back to finding my brother, right back to finding him laying there on the bed, seeing his face, knowing immediately that he had already gone. But there wasn't the same emotional attachment to it that I've had for the last 3 years. And it was interesting because I started moving around the room, not by choice, but just getting different perspectives. I slowly started seeing Matthew's legs rise by his feet, and this large trunk or vines kind of was growing up out of me, and he went right up into it and disappeared up into the air. Yeah, he moved on, I guess. This is kind of the best way I could describe it right now. It's still kind of unfolding.
It's not a process of becoming more repressed. It's not a process of psychological dissociation from trauma. It's an integration of trauma. It's an integration of all aspects of ourself. That's why this is integrative work, to foster and to midwife and to birth a new self integrated with that experience.
All right? I'm nothing. I'm absolutely nothing. And just gave up my right to everything that I've ever thought I was or wanted to be. Just let it all go. And I started to cry, not sobs, I didn't deserve those, just soft, pitiful tears of nothing. And I whispered, I said, I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm sorry. And she came, and she said, Aubrey, get up. I said, Aubrey, get up. And with tears streaming down my face, last bit of strength I had, I just listened. I said, okay, Grandma, I'll get up. It was like there was a drum in the distance, and she was a drum, quietly. And like an animal just back to the very fucking corner. Just at the brink of the absolute deepest abyss. Found a little bit of strength. I said, all right, Grandma, I'll fight. Fight with everything I have.
She was telling me, she's like, I've got all this stuff gathered up in here I need to get out. We need to get rid of it soon. And I'm like, well, what's going to happen if I get rid of it? I was like, are you still going to be here? Because I want to hang out more. And I'm like, I'm not ready for you to leave yet. And she's like, well, I've got other people I got to work on. I said, okay. I said, well, how am I going to be able to reach you when I get back home to Florida? And she's like, well, maybe we'll figure that out tomorrow. I said, oh, yeah, I will see you tomorrow night, won't I? And she's like, yeah. I said, okay.
How do we take a life-changing experience and make it real and seed that into our daily walk? The integration process is as important as the ceremony itself. That's when we bring it home into our lives.
Before the ceremony last night, Aubrey gave me his special rock that Grandma gave him. And I was really, really touched. I don't want to be 50 suddenly and have a lot of things that I'm still dealing with from like my teenage years, and that stuff can stay with you. I started focusing on my fear again, which was a problem, and I was just clutching the rock, and it got very hot. It felt like a heart. It wasn't necessarily mine, but I'm holding it, and it was something precious that was to protect me, that I had to protect too. and I just sat there with the rock. And at the end of the ceremony, Aubrey came and sat with me, and I want you to know how much it meant to me that you did that. I haven't always had your back in situations, and even though you might feel like you're nothing, you're quite something to me, and I love you.
You start to have choices to what you build back in your life. Have choice to remove all the judgments that separate us and keep us in our niches and close our hearts. And there's a lot of old habits that I still have and things that'll take time to break. But the real benefit comes when it's work. I get to start from ground zero again.
And, even now, I've had quite a few experiences with psychedelics, but even with, natural medicines and ayahuasca, and even after this week, there's still integration to go back and do. Again, a lot of the stuff with my brother is going to still be unfolding, but it's a good thing. I look forward to it, and constantly looking to let him live on through me.
And for the first time in my life, I'm leaving here very confident about myself, my love for myself, and the love I have for me is no longer just in my head. It's moved down to my heart, and it's there to stay. And I thank the medicine for that.
The first priority in this work really is very self-centered, and appropriately so. Before we can be of optimal service to Pachamama and humanity, we must become fit for service.
And particularly with this medicine, ayahuasca, it seems the vast majority of people have a substantial and long-lasting beneficial change in their entire psychic field. And that includes body, mind, spirit, heart, and soul.
I'm Aubrey Marcus, creator and producer of the film Ayahuasca.
Hi, I'm Mitch Schultz, director of the documentary.
First of all, we want to thank you for watching the film, but we also want to mention that while ayahuasca can have amazing transformational potential, it may not be for everyone.
We highly recommend that you educate yourselves if you go down this path, become very informed on who you're going to be drinking with, where you're going, and also your own personal headspace.
Yeah, we can't stress the importance enough of set and setting, and also going to ayahuasca in response to your own personal calling. But do the research. Make sure you read all about it, talk to people who've been there, and make sure you're going to a center that upholds the highest standards of integrity and experience.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. And if the message has resonated with you, please share this with family and friends. Thank you.
Thank you.